Okay, so thank you everybody for joining this meeting. My name is Councilor Michael Fenton. I'm the chair of the General Government Committee. We're going to call this meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded, and thank you, Focus Springfield. I'm now the host of the meeting, so I'll admit people as they come in. We've got a few things on the agenda here today, but let's start with, I'm going to recognize my colleagues, Councilor Edwards, as well as Councilors Govan and Whitfield. Thank you for joining. Okay, we have a few other stakeholders from the city and the media. And there are only two people that I don't recognize on the call that I'm going to ask to identify themselves. We're also joined by Councilor Hurst. Thank you, Councilor Hurst, for joining. Rob Weish Maldonado, would you mind please just identifying yourself and introducing yourself?
Yes, sir. My name is Rob Weish Maldonado, and I was invited by Attorney DeMousis. I am the owner of RWM Real Estate Investment, and it's the last item on the agenda.
Thank you very much. And I've also just admitted someone whose Zoom name is iPhone. Could you please identify yourself? I think that might be Tyran. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, could you just please introduce yourself, your name and address, please?
Tyron Daniels, 59 Stebbins Street, Springfield, Mass.
Thank you very much. We'll get to your matter shortly. Okay, so we're going to call this meeting to order. The first item that we have on the agenda is an appointment to the Springfield Redevelopment Authority, appointment proposed by Mayor Sarno of Cheryl Stanley. Is Cheryl on the call today? And it looks like you are. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us. Would you mind just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your background and why you'd like to serve on the Springfield Redevelopment Authority, please?
Oh, I didn't know I had homework. Okay, let me see. Good evening, and my name is actually it's Dr. Cheryl Stanley. I am a retired Dean of Education from Westfield State University. Just recently retired in 2020. I was at Westfield State for 27 years. 17 of those years was as a professor of education, and the remaining 10 years was the Dean of Education. I am excited to serve on the Redevelopment Authority Commission because I am a native of Springfield, and I was born and raised here. Been here for, let me see, 63 years in Springfield. 4 of those years was in Washington, D.C., but born and raised here, seeing Springfield in terms of where it was, because being called the city of homes, to where it is now. And so when I was asked to be a part of the commission, I was excited because I would like to see it come back. So that's why I wanted to serve, just knowing where it used to be and where it can be and the possibilities of growth. I'm excited to be a part of that. So that's why I wanted to serve, and now have time because I'm retired.
Well, thank you. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Stanley. Very impressive. Are there any questions from the council for Dr. Stanley on her prospective appointment to the Springfield Redevelopment Authority? Okay, seeing none. Dr. Stanley, again, thank you for your participation in municipal government, your willingness to give back in your retirement years through the SRA. I will certainly be supporting your appointment. And I think that I would entertain at this time one other member of the committee who's on with me here, Counselor Edwards. I would entertain a motion that we make a positive recommendation to appoint Dr. Stanley to the SRA, and that we do so at our next regular meeting. Is there such a motion?
Yes, sir. Make that motion, and I will offer my support for Dr. Stanley as well.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, Counselor Edwards?
Aye.
And I am also an aye. The other member of the committee is Counselor Walsh, who is absent. So that's an affirmative recommendation. And again, thank you very much, Dr. Stanley, for attending this meeting and your willingness to participate in Springfield government.
Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item we have on the agenda is item number 2. It was a petition for 229 Sumner Avenue, the creation of the Forest Park Trolley Waiting Pavilion, Local Historic District. The reason that this matter is before this committee for further discussion was there was some questions regarding the specific legal descriptions in the order to make sure that it was appropriately put together. And I see that we have Pat Sullivan and some other stakeholders here on the call. So Pat, do you want to speak to the status of this item? And
Right. Yes, I would. Good afternoon, Councilor. So we're very excited about this project. We worked with the Forest Park Civic Association on a CPA application. It was accepted, and that I believe it was unanimously approved by the City Council to move forward with the project. The trolley pavilion dates back to 1890. It's been part of Forest Park since the park was created. And I think everyone realizes that when they enter the park, it's over to the left. A lot of people probably don't realize the age of it and what it dates back to and the purpose of it, but it was to serve as a waiting area for people when the trolley was on Sumner Avenue. We've gotten very creative. As you know, costs have escalated dramatically during COVID, and we've teamed up with the carpentry crew from Putnam. We're so proud to have the kids back in the park working on park projects, and they are doing a phenomenal job in the restoration. They're saving thousands of dollars on the project, which we're kind of hopeful now we probably will be able to also address the roof of the trolley barn. So we're hopeful it will be a complete restoration and we won't have to go in for a phase 2 application. It requires any historic structures through CPA do require it be protected, and we encourage that protection. And so it will now have its own local historic district abutting the Forest Park Historic District neighborhood. And then I leave it to the planning department and the law department to answer any of the legal questions. As the park department, we don't get involved with the with those legal matters when it pertains to historic districts.
okay, thank you, Pat. Any questions from the council? Okay, seeing none. My recollection, Pat, is that there was a request that this come before our committee in hopes that any confusion around the specific description of the local historic district wasn't sorted out. It sounds to me like what you're saying is the law department either has sorted it or will sort it before the next meeting. And I don't recall any discussion from the council that was on the merits of this. So I'm certainly supportive of it. I think it's a good CPA project and consistent with the historic components. It makes sense to make this a local historic district to make it available for funding. But I'll just open it up one last time. I think I'm recalling correctly. I don't believe there were any merit-based questions about this during the last council meeting, but I'll just offer my colleagues one more chance if anybody would like to speak on this item or ask a question? And if there are none, then I would look to Counselor Edwards to make an affirmative recommendation, and we can take it back at the next meeting for second and third step.
Counselor Fenton, if I just may add, I think Attorney Edward Pakula indicated he would make that correction for the next meeting. So I'll follow up with him tomorrow just to remind him to make sure he works with Gladys on the proper terminology.
Okay.
Mr. President, that being said, I'll make the motion for the affirmative that we recommend that the full committee of the City Council approve this request.
Great. I will second it. All those in favor, Counselor Edwards?
Aye.
And I am also an aye. So that's a positive recommendation. We'll put it on for the next meeting, Pat. I think it's second and third step because there was some extensive discussion about whether or not we were just sending it to committee or taking first step to send it to committee. So you follow up with Eddie and I'll do the same, but I'm pretty sure that we'll take second and third step at the next meeting.
Yeah. So I thank you both, and I thank the other counselors that are on this call today as well. Counselor Whitfield, Hurst, and Govan. Thank you all for what you do for our city.
Thanks, Pat.
Definitely support it. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
You too. Bye-bye. Okay, so that now we're up to the last item on the agenda. Before we get to this item, I do just want to mention to my colleagues, there was another appointment to the Cultural Council that was not acted on at the last meeting. After that meeting and setting up and coordinating the schedules for this one, I determined that that was just an informational appointment, and that council confirmation, at least as I'm informed, is not required for appointments to the Cultural Commission, so Cultural District. So that for that reason, I didn't worry about coordinating calendars for that appointment. But if members are interested and want to follow up on that, I would encourage them to do it independently. But it didn't require council approval for that vote, so I didn't put it on. I didn't put on for this committee meeting. Okay. So the last item, which is before us, is an order authorizing the mayor to execute a quitclaim deed for the sale of East Side Stebbins Street, which is part of the abutter lot program. And I think we're joined by some representatives from the city, and looks like, I think that might be Mr. Demusis, but that's not his name.
Julissa Ramos.
Oh, hi, Julissa. We can't see.
I don't know why the camera keeps zooming in on me.
We can't see you. We can only see Bobby. We would rather see. So why don't you two just explain to us a little bit about the process and how the program works? Oh, perfect. How the program works, and then we can take it from there.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about how the program works and how we came to solicit applications for this particular lot. So probably sometime in either, I'd have to say, late February or early March, Councilor Whitfield reached out to me and said that she had someone who's interested in this property. So I explained to her the process of the program, which is that in any given vacant lot, when the property is eligible for the abutter lot program, we send out solicitations to all eligible abutters, meaning anyone who shares a property line with the property in question. So on March 9th, I sent out solicitation packets to, there were only two in this case, which was RWM Real Estate Investment, LLC, with a Kissimmee, Florida address, and Mr. Daniels of 59 7th Street. On the letter that we send out, we have a return by date, and that return by date was April 10th, 2021. So we didn't receive any applications for this lot until April 14th, 2021. And that application was from Mr. Weech Maldonado. However, because I knew that someone else was interested in the lot, I held off on reviewing the application because sometimes people need a little bit more time to review it, or sometimes we'll get calls maybe a week after, saying I want to apply, but I have some questions. So I actually did not review this particular application until September of 2021, so several months later. Once I did the review, there were, a couple of things that I had questions about, or that Mr. Weech Maldonado had to correct. And he was sent the letter, giving them time to review, or what do you call it, correct the issues that were presented, which he did. And after he did, on November 4th, I referred it to our abutter lot committee with a recommendation that we move forward with this particular abutter. We had not received any other abutter lot applications, but I did make the recommendation that that he be asked to install a fence, because it had been a location where we've had numerous unauthorized motor vehicles parked. Some dumping had happened there as well, so we definitely wanted there to be a fence there. So the abutter lot committee was in agreement with moving forward with Mr. Weech Maldonado. Once I got their recommendation, I reached out to Mr. Weech Maldonado and I explained to him that we would like to see an installation of a fence there, to which he was amenable. This particular lot is on a corner where we would want to make sure that traffic was not obstructed. He also moves forward with speaking with zoning to make sure that visual obstruction rules were not violated. And that was pretty much it. So I did receive a call on November 15th from Mr. Daniels asking about the lot. But at this point, several months had gone out before, since I had sent out the application to the solicitations to both abutters, and I had not heard anything. And at this point, it had already gone to a abutter lot committee. So I did tell him that my hands were tied. It was under agreement at this point and going before the council soon thereafter. And that is where we're at. I did want to do one more thing, if you'll allow it. I wanted to explain what the abutter lot committee considers when identifying an abutter.
And Julissa, if you could just 1 second, we'll let you get to that, but there was a new entry to the meeting, someone whose Zoom name is iPhone. I don't believe that's Tyran, because you introduced yourself before, but the person who's listed as iPhone that I just admitted to the room, can you please introduce yourself? Tell us who you are.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. It's Counselor Letterman. I think I just wasn't logged into my Zoom account.
Okay, thank you. Okay, proceed, Julissa.
Thank you. So when there are two abutters that are interested in a lot, if they both submit applications and they meet the minimum review requirements, then two options are available. The abutter lot program committee can recommend that the parcel be divided, but this is a very small lot, so in this case, we wouldn't do that. And each abutter will receive a portion of the property, or the committee may decide that the property should be sold to only one abutter based on the following criteria. So the first one is in fact preference given to the owner occupant, but that is just one of 6. There's also preference for given to the abutter who maintains their own property in excellent condition, given to the abutter who presents little or no usable space, or in addition, or in need of off-street parking. The preference is also given to the abutter who assists in the maintenance of and care of the vacant lot. And preference is also given for those who have proposals that will improve the quality of life in the neighborhood as a whole, and or fulfill a recognized need for that neighborhood. And the last one being preference will be given to those abutters that have an excellent tax payment history. So granted, I did not receive an application for Mr. Daniels for this lot, but in preparation for this meeting, I did in fact do a preliminary review. And so I do have those findings if you'd like to know what those are regarding the preference when they're compared to each other.
Okay, not quite yet. We're going to recognize Counselor Whitfield. Counselor Whitfield.
Thank you, Chairman. Julissa, you're right. I called around March for Mr. Daniels because as a resident, he asked me if I knew the process. And I just got this information on how you grade the applications today, like an hour ago. So I briefly went over them, and there are a few things on there that we can talk about once you go ahead and read them off. So from my understanding, Mr. Daniels never received the abutter package that was sent out. I don't know how it was misplaced, but he never received it. And so he didn't turn in the application. So he called me around November and asked me, you know, what was happening with it. And I gave him your number because I didn't know. And I guess that's when you guys had a conversation. So you can go ahead and read off the criteria, and then we can go ahead and discuss that, the criteria of your findings.
Okay, so just to reiterate, we did send out the solicitation packets in March, and it wasn't until November that we actually sent it to the butter lot for recommendation. But so these are the preference. So I did go over them, and as you know, Mr. Daniels is an owner occupant, Mr. Weech Maldonado is not. So in that event, preference will be given to Mr. Daniels. It said the second one being preference will be given to an abutter who maintains their property in excellent condition. There are actually 9 current outstanding police department tickets for unregistered motor vehicle and litter and sidewalk violations against 59 7th Street. There are an additional 12 outstanding code enforcement tickets for storage of commercial vehicles and unregistered motor vehicles. So those two he would not be preference would not be given to him in this regard. The next one is preference will be given to the abutter who presents little or no usable open space and or is in need of additional off-street parking. In this case, both of the applicants are roughly the same size. Mr. Daniels' property is slightly larger, but not by much. So his is 3,380 square feet, and Mr. Weech Maldonado's is 3,320. So really not that big of a difference. Mr. Daniels has a garage and Mr. Weech Maldonado has a garage and carport. So, and the next one being preference will be given to the abutter who has assisted in the maintenance and care of the vacant lot. This is an important one because we've had numerous issues at this property. In May of 2020, we had a dumpster there, unregistered motor vehicles, and some dumping. And it's my understanding that in fact was Mr. Daniels who had the dumpster there. When I contacted the dumpster company to remove the dumpster, that's who they told me had it there. And of course, the next day, the dumpster was gone, the cars were gone. So he was responsive to the issue, but he was also the issue. And then in January of this year, we had January of 2021, we had more issues of unregistered motor vehicles there that was dealt with through the police department. And they were again removed shortly after the complaint came in. But we have put no parking signs at this property on at least 4 occasions within the last 2 years. So it's been a pervasive issue there. The next one is preference will be given to those proposals that will improve the quality of life in the neighborhood as a whole. In this case, I didn't rate this one because there was nothing, he didn't submit anything, so I can't review anything for him. And then the last one being preference will be given to those abutters that have an excellent tax payment history. Mr. Daniels is currently in tax title. So so of the 6 options, 4 of them, he would not be given preference for. Realistically, the only one that he would be given preference to would be the owner occupancy preference.
Okay, Councilor Whitfield.
Okay, so I just have a couple of statements and then a couple of questions. Can you give me, a couple of questions first. Can you give me the dates of the tickets of the unregistered vehicles again?
Oh, okay.
Do you have those?
So I'll start from the most recent so I'll start with the code enforcement tickets. October 12th, okay. 2021, June 29th, 2021, June 24th.
Are they the same issue or are they different issues?
So the October one was storage of commercial vehicles. June was unregistered motor vehicles 3. In June, again, storage of commercial vehicles. In June, again, unregistered motor vehicles, this time 4. In May, another 4. In March.
So they went by his house probably like every quarter and gave him the same tickets is what you're saying. Well, I mean, this is what it sounded like.
I can't speak.
Because sometimes people need a little bit of time to figure out where the vehicles and things are gonna go. And during COVID, folks are struggling money-wise. So that doesn't tell the whole story. I'm gonna let him tell his own story. but I'm just saying that. And that's what it sounds like to me. And the reason that I know that it was happening this way is because he called me each time it happened and asked what he should do, because he just didn't have anywhere for the vehicles to go at this time. And so he's also was remodeling his home at the time. So he had a dumpster out there. I've had a dumpster in my yard. I haven't got a code enforcement violation for it before. So I don't know what the time is for that.
Sorry, Councilor Whitfield, I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify. The dumpster was not on his property. The dumpster was on the city-owned property. That's why we got.
Oh, it was on, okay.
We received a complaint because he had a dumpster on the city-owned property, as well as unregistered motor vehicles on the city-owned property, not his.
On the abutter property is what you're talking about.
Yes, correct, yes.
Okay, on the abutter property.
On that occasion, to that occasion. Yeah.
Okay, that was one occasion, right?
Well, that was, the unregistered motor vehicles was at least two. There was another one in January of 2021. And there were a couple of other ones, but the other ones I can't say for certain that it was his unregistered motor vehicles, only that they were unregistered motor vehicles. But on at least two occasions, I can say that it was for sure his.
Okay. All right. I don't know, Councilor Fenton, if you wanted, so I can tell you what I know. I'm going to tell the council what I know, if that's okay with you, sir.
Please.
Okay. So what I know is Mr. Daniels called, asked about the abutter lot. So as far as I'm concerned, we got the abutter lot process started. I called Jaleesa. She told me how to go about it and what was going to be done, and that she would send out the packages, which she did. I'm not questioning that Jaleesa did her job. She's an excellent employee. Love working with her. But for whatever reason, they weren't received by Mr. Daniels. Around January and throughout 2021, he was calling me saying the officers keep coming by, ticketing these unregistered vehicles. Unfortunately, we don't all have someplace for unregistered vehicles to go. And at a time that we are not working and we cannot afford to get them registered, I don't know that any of us would just want to let our vehicles go. And so sometimes you just take the tickets or do what you got to do. And I'm pretty sure that he didn't know that this property was an abutter lot at first, because he just obtained this property not too long ago, maybe in the last year, he obtained the property. So we don't always understand about abutter lots and properties. And I think that the city needs to do a little bit better, not you, Jaleesa, but the city needs to do a little bit better helping folks understand what the issues are before just giving them tickets and code enforcement violations, and helping them understand and maybe like have a little compassion, or maybe just stop circling the same neighborhoods that they want to give code enforcement, because I got plenty other, I'm not gonna make this personal. Anyways, I'm just telling you guys what I know. And so this is what I know. This is what I know about the ticket situation. This is what I know about the property, because I've been in constant communication with Mr. Daniels. As far as tax title goes, he's in an agreement with the department to pay those tax titles. But what I want to know, was he in tax title when the abutter application went out?
So according, it's 2019 that's in tax titles. So 2019, 2020, and 2021. So,
2021. So like I said, he just obtained this property. He actually has a contract with the construction company, and he has obtained the funding to get the house done over. So this is what I know. And I'm going to be quiet, Councilor.
If I can just share the little that I know. I don't know about the transfer too much, but I can tell you that when we have an application come in, we do a little bit of a search registry. So I do know that he's owned the property since March of 2020, but that it was also, it seemed to be a familiar person who was the transfer. It had the same surname. So I don't know for sure who it was, but they had the same surname. So it was it seemed to be in a family. I don't want to misspeak, but usually, as you know, when you transfer a property, you do an MLC to make sure that everything is good to go before you move forward.
Did not know that. I don't know what an MLC is. I mean, you said as you know, and that's why I'm saying no, I don't know that.
Okay, well, typically, when there's a transfer, there's an MLC that's done, and you can see anything that's outstanding before you move forward with that. I don't know if that was done in this case. I can't speak to that. I wasn't involved in it. But had it been done, it would be known that there were outstanding taxes, and there are current taxes. So we're not just talking about back taxes. The current standing taxes are outstanding. So.
Yes. What does MLC stand for?
Municipal lien certificate?
Oh, municipal lien certificate. Okay. All right. And that does what?
So it'll show you everything that's outstanding on the property you're about to purchase, because if you don't know, I mean, you're gonna be subject to it as a new owner. So.
Right, it just kind of evens between the seller and the buyer. If I'm gonna buy your house, you're gonna show me an MLC to show you your current, so I'm not buying your past bills.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And so, as you guys can both see, if you're not familiar with the process, you don't even know about an MLC, because honestly, this is probably something my lawyer would do for me during the house purchasing process, but I had no idea what that was. But I appreciate you explaining it.
No problem.
Okay. Is there anybody, I have just a couple of questions, and then I'll see if there's anybody else that would like to raise their hand to be heard. Julissa, it looks to me like there's quite a few city-owned lots in and around this intersection of Union and Stebbins. There's one right across the street on the opposite side of Union and Stebbins. There's like 3 more further up Union, directly across from Terrence Street. And then there's another, which is directly opposite the property located at 560 Union Street, and Mr. Weish Maldonado's property. And I have just 2 questions about that. The first is that all those other properties are fenced and secured, so that there wouldn't be an opportunity for somebody to park an unregistered vehicle or, make it less convenient to do illegal dumping. Why, do you know why this particular parcel on the corner of Stebbins and Union is not fully fenced and the others are?
So I can tell you that generally speaking, we don't fence properties. So they might come in fenced. We have fenced properties in the past, but it's a substantial expenditure, especially now when costs are so high, that it's not something that we typically do unless there is a major issue. So most of the time, the answer to that is most of the time they come in fenced.
I got it. Okay. And then the second question is related to these other properties. Is there any type of plan to have some of these other properties subject to the abutter lot program? And I know that this one ended up in the program because of a specific request, but is there any plan for what the city will do with these other properties within a few hundred yards?
Well,
and specifically, Julissa, I'm asking about the one opposite 560 Union Street, because Mr. Weish Maldonado has another city-owned lot on the opposite side of his property.
So I don't know offhand. I can tell you that this particular property went through the abutter lot program, not just because of the request, but of its size. So we had put it out before. It's under 5,000 square feet. I think it's roughly 2,200 or something like that. So it's certainly not buildable. A lot of the properties on Union Street are buildable. And that's why perhaps there's other development that could happen down the line. And of course, you don't want to put them all on an auction list, all these properties on just Union Street, because you want there to be development and you want those people to be willing to own or occupy those properties after. So it's not something that so I can't speak to why they're all there, but that there may be other development, in the works. Yeah, in the future.
I understand. Thank you. Councilor Edwards?
The Rams in this game, right? But at least you're having a chance to be in the arena. That's all you want to be, right? Is in the arena. That's all. You just want to get in there. You just want to compete.
Councilor Edwards?
So everybody is the
Councilor, I'm sorry, you're on mute. But it sounds like also someone else is not on mute. So if you're not speaking, if you could please mute. Councilor Edwards?
Well, it's a question in a statement, but the question is can we legally, I don't believe that legally we can transfer any municipally owned or controlled property to anyone who is has a lien. And I believe that even extends to your trash fee or excise tax. It's not property taxes. I believe there's a whole host of things, and I'm not an attorney. I don't believe there's, but maybe Ms. Ramos can comment on that part. But I believe legally our hands are tied in the transfer of municipally controlled property to anyone who has an outstanding lien. And any of us who have ever bought a house, that is, or any property, real property, that is part of the process with the when they do the title search and stuff, is the liens. I mean, I have neighbors whose property has a lien from when my wife was bit by their dog. So I'm familiar with that as well. But could anybody give me clarification as to, regardless of the circumstances, whether the city can transfer this land?
Well, in actually, with regard to tax title property, you can't owe anything. So you can't even have a ticket. So it's not just trash fees, it's not just liens, it's taxes, it's charges, it's tickets, it's code violations, it's any charges or fees owed. You have to be clear of all that. And it's not specific to our butter lot program. It's also, we do that with the auctions and as well as the RFPs. You can't move forward unless you're clear, you're zero.
Okay, thank you.
That's a general policy in the city for any contract. If I'm doing, if we're doing the Knox project with Gordon Pulsifer, we have to do a tax certification to make sure he's clean, all his properties, there's nothing owed before we can enter that contract or any contract.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Councilor Whitfield.
I would like to speak to Tyron Daniels and ask, do you plan on paying off all of your violations, tickets, and tax title in the near future?
Yes, I
will not approve this abutter if the person that requested this in the first place didn't receive the application and not given the opportunity to work things out. But go ahead, I'm sorry, Mr. Daniels.
Yes, I plan on, I just put in for a loan. I have an approval, so, the funds will be available for me to take care of my business and renovate this property. And then, in the next 90 days, I should have all my tax information and everything taken care of in the next 30 days. They send me an email to take care of it. I got to put down, I think it's a little over $2,000. So I'm taking care of that as we speak. I kind of figured out why I didn't get the mail, because the transfer of when the deed got transferred, the family that left there has the same last name as me. So they did a family transfer of mail, and all my mail went somewhere else to their address, and I never received my mail. So I went down to the post office to get it sent back to Stebbins Street, and they told me that I couldn't get it sent back without the person that transferred the family. So I've been having an issue with my mail. So my mail's been coming up missing, and I haven't been getting my mail at all. So that's another one of my big problems. As far as the property goes, it sort of was, from my understanding, from the tree after my driveway back to the front of my house belongs to 59 Stebbins Street. It really wouldn't make sense for the property behind me to have the land on the side of me. My backyard is tiny, and my whole plan was to put a fence around it and extend my garage and make my garage bigger, so the kids will have somewhere to play. So if I'm allowed, 30 to 45 days to, take care of everything that needs to be taken care of, I'm pretty sure and confident that I can get it done with the opportunity. But I did not receive the abutters package at all.
A question that I had for Mr. Daniels, Mr. Chair, I didn't have any additional questions.
Oh, okay. Did you say, do you have another question for Mr. Daniels, or that's all?
Oh, no, that's all I had.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Daniels. If there's anything else you'd like to say, certainly would invite you to do that at this time. And then after that, I would, I think it's appropriate to let Mr. Weish Maldonado speak if he has anything he'd like to say. So do you have anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Daniels?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Weish Maldonado, would you like to speak?
No, yeah, I just wanted to mention briefly, that since I received the package, I was very diligent in working with Ms. Davila, and and I have been following the process. She had been communicating me with deficiencies that I have to meet. And, it took a while to get all of that done. And, so I have done all of my part, and for a long time. And so this is all of a sudden coming, out of nowhere. The other thing is that I think, from in terms of the neighborhood improvement, in terms of where the lot is located next to 560 Union Street, putting there a fence and a garden, I think would improve a lot, the aesthetics of that area. So, and that's my plan, it's not to build another garage, it's actually to put a garden there so that it actually benefits both my property as well as the surrounding area. So that's why I was looking forward to this project. So I'm a little bit disappointed that now all of a sudden, there is this other thing coming up when I follow actually all the guidelines, from the beginning.
Thank you. Councillor Hurst, then Councillor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jaleesa, what would renoticing look like? What would that process look like? Can you just walk me through that? If this was not to get approved, and because folks wanted to ensure that everybody was properly noticed, what would that look like? So, what would be the timing around that? We would wait until, if the city council were to take action on it, that probably wouldn't be until, when is our next meeting? Sorry. It would be on the 28th. No, it would be on the 7th. And then, so I'd imagine you probably couldn't renotice it until after action was taken on the 7th. And so what would that time period look like if you were to renotice?
So if that was the decision of the council, then after the 7th, on the 8th, I could send out new solicitation packets to all eligible abutters with a time frame similar to that of the first one, which would be 30 days. 30 days is the amount of time that we give abutters to fill out the applications and respond with interest.
Got it. And so that would, and then what happens after the 30 days?
After the 30 days, we would look at all the applications, and if we got more than one, we would the preference as stated previously. So we would look at both the abutters to see which one is owner occupying, which one is in with the property, which one is hurting the property, which one is in tax title, which one is paying their bills, and so on and so forth, using the preference model that we have. And then make a recommendation to the abutter lot committee with who we believe should move forward based on that criteria.
Got it. So if it was the will of the body, then Mr. Daniels would have roughly 45 days from right now to rectify his issues, and then you all would go through the same process that you normally go through. Is that accurate?
So we would go through the same process. Like I said, after the 7th, I could send it out on the 8th, and they could have 30 days to submit their applications. But please bear in mind that when the abutter lot committee is reviewing it, they're going to, even if the payment is in full within the next 45 days or the next 5 days, that is something that is considered when looking at the criteria. We're looking at who has a good tax history. We're looking at who has violations, who has code enforcement issues at this property, because that's the criteria we've been given to consider when reviewing more than one application.
Understood. But it certainly would give Mr. Daniels an opportunity to present himself in certainly a better light than what is occurring right now with respect to the violation. So, okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm all set.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you. I just wanted to tell Mr. Maldonado, thank you for his efforts. Thank you for putting in the application. Thank you. That is a great idea about starting a garden. However, this did not just come about, sir. We started working on this way back in February or March timeframe, and he just did not get the notification for the reasons that he stated. And so this did not just come about. And I just wanted to clarify that for you, sir. We definitely appreciate what you are bringing to Springfield, but we also need to start looking at how we can better equip the folks that live in Springfield to be able to do similar things that you're doing. And so I certainly am looking to do that, because at times folks just need help to figure out how processes work. If you're not familiar with them and you're not given a chance to get better at doing these types of things, and you stay in the same cycle. And I personally have been in the cycle for far too long myself. And so it's time for us to start giving opportunities to the residents of the city of Springfield to grow and build their local economy that they live in and get back to on a daily basis. So I certainly didn't want you to think that I don't personally appreciate your efforts and you following the guidelines and stipulations as they were presented to you. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you making all the corrections that you did. But I personally know Mr. Daniels, and I know a lot of people in our neighborhoods that's struggling with the same type of situation and just don't have the same opportunities as folks that know the process. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Unless there's anybody else who'd like to say anything on this, I think best thing to do is to just take all this under advisement, and at the next meeting that Councilor Hurst referenced on the 7th, we can discuss before the full council what was brought to bear here and make a decision as a body as to how to proceed. Do you agree, Councilor Edwards?
Yeah, I don't feel, we don't need to make a recommendation. I think it's important that at the committee of the whole, when this issue is brought up, that somebody from the law department is available to explain, because my interpretation is that regardless of whether he got notice or not, he's not legally able to acquire this land. And even if we re-noticed it and send it back out for notice, he still wouldn't qualify from the description from Ms. Ramos, but by state law or city ordinance, it's you have to have you have to be in good standing not only at the time of the transfer, but at the time leading up to the transfer. So even if he got everything paid up on time, it still would disqualify him because of the past history. But I don't have to make that judgment here in this meeting. So my thought is that we should not make a recommendation, just bring the information back to the committee of the whole with an attorney that represents the city that can tell us the legalese associated with the transfer of municipal owned and controlled property.
I think that's appropriate. Councilor Whitfield?
This will be my final comment, but I just wanted to say, I wish we all didn't have a history that needed to be corrected or needed some help adjusting. I don't know what the law is, so it would be good, Councilor Fenton, if we have the legal team available to answer some of these questions. But I just hope that we can live in a society that we can give folks another chance or help folks that has been impacted in certain other ways to figure out how to do these things. So if the legal team is there, that would be great.
Thank you. Counselor Hurst, I was gonna call on you. Sorry for putting your hand down twice. Counselor Hurst.
Sorry. I just was trying to figure out whether that was accurate. And so, yeah, if Ms. Ramos can't, I mean, I don't know if she can speak to it or if it's preferable that someone from the legal department speak to it. But based off of your knowledge, is it accurate that leading up to this particular process that folks have to have their, their ducks in a row first? I mean, I feel like there are oftentimes when there are a lot of things that you might not know about. And there are other times when even if you, sometimes you run the municipal lien certificates and certain things don't show up, which has happened to me on a number of occasions for a variety of different reasons. And so it would seem to me that folks would be given the opportunity to rectify it in the event it did come up. Maybe not when you have two applicants, but certainly if you had one applicant, that seems to me that you wouldn't be disqualified, similar to what my colleague said, right?
So that is correct. So in a situation where there was one abutter and they had outstanding tickets, we would give them an opportunity to correct that before moving forward, as we did with Mr. Reach Maldonado. And so they would have that opportunity to do that. When it becomes an issue is when the property's been foreclosed on for non-payment of taxes. So if they have a history where the city's foreclosed on their property, they will not be eligible, no matter whether they're in good standing now with their other properties or not. If they've been foreclosed on for non-payment of taxes, they would not be eligible. So I just wanted to clarify that. But in a situation like, as you said, with two abutters where we have two applications, we would look at them side by side and go through that preference criteria that I discussed earlier.
Okay, and you said Mr. Maldonado did have some things that he had to rectify and clear up prior to?
Yes, there were a couple of things that he needed to take care of before moving forward, which he referenced. I sent him a letter, I believe it was in late September, and by the end of October or early November, they had been resolved within I usually give a 30 days to correct an issue, and they were corrected within that time frame. And that's why he was able to move forward. But in a situation where we have two abutters, we would look at them side by side and go over that criteria that we discussed earlier.
Yes, but I guess my point now is that provided they, if they both had notice and both of the applications had issues, in terms of things that they needed to clear up, you would have informed both the applicants that they had issues and they both would have been provided the same opportunity to clear those issues up. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And then I just have one question that just came to me. Julissa, how do you send the notices? Julissa?
Great question, Mr. Chair.
Sorry about that. So we send out solicitation packets. That includes a letter to the abutter, just soliciting interest, a copy of the GIS map so they can see not only the subject property, but other eligible abutters. They're all highlighted on the GIS map. They get a copy of a breakdown of estimated costs on what it would cost to purchase the property, and an application packet, which includes information on the abutter lot program, as well as application.
I understand, but how is it sent?
Oh, first class.
First class USPS.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay. So, and it's relevant because that's not an imperfect system. Excuse me, that is an imperfect system. And we've had, recent issues and other unrelated to abutter lot program matters in the city concerning notice. And it's an ongoing issue that the council's been talking about. So, all right.
If I can just say one more thing, just to reiterate that based on that information, not that specific information, but knowing that sometimes it takes a while to get for the mail to get sent, we did wait several months before taking any action on Mr. Reach Maldonado. We sent the solicitations out in March, and again, it wasn't until November that we sent it to a abutter lot committee. Just on the off chance that we might get something later. And we didn't get a return to sender for the record either. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. That would be helpful, but only if people actually received the notice in the first place. Counselor Whitfield?
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say that, Council Fan, but I was also gonna say that would they have sent it to committee and he had some bills or I don't know, whatever that had to be cleared up and they didn't get cleared up until the end of November, early November, end of December. So would it have went to the abutters committee prior to him clearing up whatever had to be cleared up?
So it did. So in September, on September 29th is when I sent him the letter, and it didn't go to committee until November 4th. So it was resolved by the time it went to committee.
So the time frame that it went to committee was not because you waited to see if anything else was going to come through, but he had to in anyways clear up his tickets or
no.
I don't know.
Let me clarify that. Sorry.
Okay.
So March the solicitations go out, and they had until April 10th. We received his application April 14th. I held on to it, did not even review his application until end of September. On September 29th, upon completion of my review, I sent him a letter, and by November 4th, which is the date it went to a butter lot committee, is when they all were resolved. So no, he was not all this time resolving those issues. It was just
no, I didn't think all this time. My question was, would you have sent it to the abutters committee prior to whatever he had to resolve being resolved? Would it have went to a abutters committee prior to those resolutions?
So as I think it was Councilor Hurst or Councilor Fenton that said that if, sometimes you don't know something's there. So I do my review, and every now and then it's not extensive enough and something does pop up. But even after the butter lot committee does their review, they have to be tax certified by the collector's office. So even though I review, after they make their recommendation, that person moving forward can't move forward until a full tax certification is done.
And to your question, yeah, we don't send it to the committee until at least what we can see on our end is clean.
Okay.
Occasionally something.
Yeah, that's the question that I'm asking. Does it go to committee before it's clean? And so that answer to me is no. Well, until what you can see is clean. So it wouldn't go to committee if there's anything outstanding. Okay, thank you.
Right. Seeing no further questions, Counselor Edwards, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second. All those in favor, Counselor Edwards?
Aye.
And I am also an aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Butters, appreciate the testimony. I think we all learned a lot here. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.